Howdy. It's so weird to me that YouTube makes me take a picture. I should, I need to get ready for that and hold up some title cards. Oh, that's a good idea. I think I'll do that. So we are live on YouTube and getting ready to go live on Facebook. I don't know if this is working. I'm still learning. But we're going to go live. So we are live here on YouTube on the Hollywood Gatekeepers YouTube channel. Today we're talking about, get my shot, frame your shot, director, makeup. Okay. There's no way, like, maybe there is a way. No, there isn't a way that I found anyway on YouTube. Someone knows this, please let me know, to set things up ahead of time, like to see myself and get the shot. There is a way. I know there's a way. It's just like we're creating content so much and we're creating handouts. We actually have a handout. I think I will put it in the description. Still learning. Yeah, we'll put the handout. It'll be in the description. Oh no, that's YouTube. So confused. Yeah, so we will have a handout in the, just click below and there will be a handout for this top 10 tips to creating chemistry in a screenplay. We will have a handout for that as well. So I am going to go live now on Facebook within our group. So if you haven't joined the Facebook group, please do that. Just go over to Facebook and it's Hollywood Gatekeepers is the group, just like the YouTube channel. And you'll see the logo and it should all match, she says with confidence. And we do a lot of trainings in there as well. So we are going to go live there as well. I'm getting the hang of this slowly but surely. And it's going to be strange because here now I am on Facebook already talking. What? So we are live, dual live. And next week, it's a little too much today, but next week, perhaps, if I really get some oomph to, I'll go live on Instagram too. Because you just can't go live in enough places. So we're live on YouTube and live on Instagram right now. We're just, kind of getting this all together. It is very strange because I can see, when I'm, hi Doug, you have to get used to like the monitor of your whole face right there. And then invariably it picks a picture, just freeze on, which is always the one where I'm like, it's like always the way, right? Can you share, please, Doug? So we're live on YouTube. We are live on Facebook. Soon we'll be live on Instagram as well. We're just like seeing how many platforms we can go at once. Pretty cool. And there's also a handout today. Very exciting. So we have a handout that we will give to you in a bit to go with today's topic because happy Valentine's Day or Galentine's Day or I was going to say bro. Try to put bro in there. I don't know. I don't know. Being a man and failing. Goodness. Hey Shri. Well, live anywhere is better than the alternative. Absolutely. I was like, well, live what? Well, live anywhere. Yes, absolutely. Being live is good. It's definitely a step in the right direction. So, because it's Valentine's Day, we thought we would do something towards that. I know, right? 5 p.m. already. All of a sudden it's like, oh, hurry up, which is not an unusual sight in my home because we do have a studio here. And then I hear people in the house saying, oh, it's studio time, meaning like, dog and things need to turn off. That's the beautiful thing about today's technology is we can have these studio times right here in our home offices and we have both home and away offices and, we can do it all. So it's very cool. So today, yes, we are going to talk about 10 tips to creating chemistry in a screenplay because it's Valentine's Day. Yay. Yay! So we thought about talking about rom-coms, but you know what? We've done that already. I think we did that last Valentine's Day. So take a look at that. So we thought, let's talk specifically. Let's get a little more specific about that and figure out ways, because chemistry is huge in a screenplay and it doesn't necessarily just mean chemistry between male and female in a romantic comedy. Chemistry is very important in any screenplay. Yes, are you? I'm not, because it gets, Cherie's saying, for those of you in the YouTube that can't see the comments, that it's still light. Not long ago, it was dark. I'm not aligned with the daylight time right now. Wait, what month is this? You're already, why is it different today as opposed to yesterday? Hi, Anson. Buddy movies. Right. That's That's what we're celebrating today. Definitely need chemistry in buddy movies, right? And you see buddy movies sometimes where there is no chemistry, and yeah. So what we wanted to do today, though, is make it so as a writer, you are not beholden and not relying on the actors to provide that chemistry. Actors can do a pretty good job at creating chemistry, and you hear stories about actors really not liking each other. And I've been in plays, actually. I've done plays where I haven't had chemistry with the person, but we do on stage. Is very strange when that happens, where there's all this chemistry because it's written so well, and so the chemistry can happen. And then you walk off stage and it's gone. Like that. It's kind of weird, but that's when it's good writing. So how can you write your scripts so that that chemistry is built in, which can still be destroyed if the chemistry is really bad between the actors. But if you give the actors, I mean, actors, that's what they're there for. That's their job. So if you give them enough clues and enough things to work with, they can create chemistry, whether they have it naturally or not. When they have it naturally, greatest thing ever. It's a whole new universe. What? Well, maybe I'm not with it today. I'm a little bit tired. Maybe I'm not with it. Wait, now I'm laughing. It's making the table shake. Woo! And that's not good in California. Frame shot. Okay, director. I need a director in a major way. So why don't I go ahead and let's go ahead and share the handout. And I'll put the handout in there. And those of you on the YouTube channel, it will be available very soon. I'll throw it in there. So here, oh, there it is. So there's the handout. She says, oh yeah, scroll. I always forget to scroll. Quit listening to me. I'm distracting you, which is not hard. It's not hard. I will always listen to you. What are you talking about? I need to listen to you. I need to listen to everybody. Always learning, always listening, right? So there's the handout. It takes you to a page. So this was a gatekeeper's idea, who's now a screenreader, by the way. He came up with this idea so that the handouts would be in one place. So as we get handouts, we'll put them all in one place. If you've already it'll ask for your name and email. If you have already entered your name and email, it'll still ask for that, but it doesn't go anywhere. So don't worry about it. But and you can always, if you want the handout, but you don't want to give us your name and email, you can always just what will happen is you'll do the opt-in. It will send you the thing, and then there's a place on there you can unsubscribe it anytime if you don't want emails. Just a little button says, "Get me out of here." We only want people that want the emails, and we send other things. And typically, we really do. I mean, it might not seem like it, but we are really trying to only give information about stuff that we're giving away. It's like here we're having a free thing here, and here's this free thing, and here's that free thing, and letting you know when an enrollment period is only a certain time, and the emails do come a little bit more frequently during that time period, but it's only for a week, and then it calms down, and then it's just about the weekly things that we're giving away for free. So. If you're on our email list, that's how it works. So it might seem at first like, oh my gosh, it's too many emails, but it's because we're in enrollment. We're letting you know when we have so much more going on. We do these Facebook Lives every day. We have the free pre-training that we're doing. So you've got links to those videos. We also have the masterclass, which each has its own specific link. And then we have one link so you can get to them all. So there's just a lot of information that we're giving away. So, but unsubscribe at any time if at all it bothers you, or email us. You can reply to any of the emails that we send you, and we'll get back to you. So we really are trying to be nice, normal people to the best of our ability, and still give the things that we want to give away, and still create our course. It's like we're doing it all. So that's kind of all I really have to say about that. But this way, also, when you get to this page, you'll see other handouts about writing a screenplay. So it's kind of cool. You can kind of, if you missed one or whatever, you can download some other handouts as well. So you can kind of start collection. You can like be the serial killer and like wallpaper your house. See, these are creative minds. This is what happens. Oh, scroll. But nobody ever does. It's true. That is true. Like very few people in numbers wise, like, we've learned these online business things, and you have all these benchmarks that you make. And we just love you guys so much because the benchmarks are always really good. And we hope that's because we're trying to provide value and listen to you and that kind of thing. We want it to be a give and take. We're all in this together. We don't really want it to be like this one side drink from a fire hose kind of thing. So, yeah. People very rarely unsubscribe, and we get lots of people that want to know more. Yay, it's Valentine's Day. So How do you create chemistry? Like if you're writing a screenplay and you want your characters to have chemistry, if you could put some of these, not all of these elements, but some of these elements into your screenplay, it's going to help the actors be informed. So usually when an actor auditions for something, they narrow it down to 3 or 4 or 5 people on each role, and and then they pair them up in different things, and a lot of it has to do with that natural timing and just natural rhythm that people have together. But if you can create a pretty solid rhythm in there, it will still fluctuate, but not drastically. And sometimes when you get bigger movie stars, they don't do those. And I actually think they always should, but sometimes they don't. And then that's when you sometimes run into trouble because what was the movie I just read? I jotted down a few, but I didn't jot this one down. Oh, Johnny Depp and Angelina Jolie. You would think, right? Because they're pretty charismatic people, but together they just didn't quite gel. I think maybe because they're both such powerhouse people, but that can happen sometimes when you get these super famous actors, and sometimes the chemistry really works and sometimes it doesn't. But the more that you can create that chemistry in the script on your own, your chances are going to be far better, because there's nothing worse than writing a script where you think, it reads really well on the page, and then you see it and the chemistry blows it and makes the script not work, and you're like, that's my words. Or you feel like when it works though, it's just like it's like an out-of-body experience. It's really hard to describe it when it actually works, and you put that thing, and then the actors have this amazing chemistry and they take to a whole new level. Whew, that's when the magic happens. The Tourist, yeah, that's the one. Thank you. And that's just my humble opinion, but actually, and it was interesting too, because whenever I do these, I always kind of write down my thoughts and, where my take on it. And then I Google and look around and read articles and kind of see what everybody else thinks. And it's really interesting. And sometimes it will inform a little bit like, oh, that's kind of an interesting thought. And I thought that about The Tourist, but there were some where I felt, this chemistry was really good, and they were on some list where they said it was bad, and some lists they say it was good. It's really interesting. And we'll go through some of that. But I just want to kind of go through these kind of 10 tips of things that, just as an actor and also as a writer, that inform when an actor is trying to figure out how to create chemistry. And so kind of the first one is that glance. What is that glance? The very first time characters meet. If you're trying to do a story where the characters meet, and this doesn't, again, people automatically think of couples, but it could be, villain, the first time a villain meets and the first time the protagonist meets their nemesis, it doesn't necessarily have to be romantic. No, you can't have the handout. Yes, just click on the link. It'll just take your email again, but don't worry about that. It doesn't, like I said, you're already in our list, so it'll just go there. So, what is that first glance? If you can make that moment, really, really important and make it happen in a really unique way, then the director will pick up without camera angles, no camera angles, but the director, you'll see, you can say from across the room, that gives the camera angle without saying camera is across the room, right? So it's like you can give that kind of thing of that first glance, that first meeting, that first connection that they have. Super, super important, right? I know. Yes, Shri is very organized. She's got the notebook. She's awesome. Carry on. Okay, will do. So, if you can make that really strong in some way, and really unique. And they do, they actually have, I think it's the People's Choice Awards that does the best on-screen kiss or whatever. And they do the ones like Spider-Man where he's upside down, and in the rain, or, doing these kind of unique scenarios also can make it really interesting. And I think, I really like the movie Crazy Stupid Love, and I love the scene with the two of them where he does the dirty dancing thing. So funny, right? That he's got this thing that he uses to charm women, and then you can't help but be charmed by it, even though it's kind of icky because he uses it. So it's kind of funny, like those kind of moments like create that chemistry. Even though those two actors obviously have a lot of chemistry because they keep reappearing in movies together. Because once that happens, people want to use those two actors together quite a bit. And then the subtext, what are they not saying? What are the characters not saying? Super important in all kinds of chemistry. What is the subtext of each thing? And I'm not going to read we put like little descriptions. You can read, so I'm not going to give you that. But basically the banter, what is the banter that happens? How do they communicate with each other? Humor is huge, obviously, in terms of creating chemistry. And how can that work? Yes, and the cute meet too. There's so many different kinds of meetings, right? And that also goes to with banter. And it's funny because one of the things, and we give this in here too, but one of the things in general, when you are trying to figure out your characters and write characters that are believable and write characters that are real, there's so much out there in terms of relationships, right? Why would you not go on a website that's about how to meet women, how to meet men, how to be charming, how to whatever? That still applies. So, I was kind of looking at um, dating websites about how to create chemistry. Well, actually, they weren't really dating. It was like articles about how to create chemistry, and it was giving advice to the men to be decisive and don't wait around and kind of go for it, and to the women to not try to be clever too soon, to take a deep breath, like really interesting, to always ask about the other person, to be coy, like all these different things. And so all of that just feeds right into a screenplay. It's so if you're struggling with something and you want to try to figure out how to make that character deeper and more rich, actually explore, if you were that person, what would you be looking for? If you were that character, what websites would you go to? What would they be seeking out? And that will really help you inform your writing. Um, Touch is so huge. Touch is such a huge one, and when people write screenplays and they write about, and there's actually, I've seen things when they talk about directing too, and how important it is how you set up your scenes with the characters with each other. So like a character would never expose sort of their neck and open. These are areas that when you're hiding, when you're afraid, you hunch those, you're protecting your vitals. And so if you're with a villain, the characters very rarely will be open and exposing. And, the physical touch, a light touch, a subtle touch, just, there's so many things that inform how a character feels about a character. Pride and Prejudice, I just love that movie. And I love in the big scene, it doesn't end in a big old kiss. It ends with him kissing her forehead. It's like so gentle and sweet. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be this big passionate thing. As a matter of fact, sometimes the more underplayed things like can create more tension and more chemistry and more vibe. So you don't have to be what they call on the nose. You don't have to be in our face with, they just, unless that's what you're going for, unless, we're building to that. But I see that all the time in screenplays where it's just this rush of passion and it's kind of shallow, and it doesn't create the kind of tension and drama and things that make a screenplay really, really, really work. And then you've got, we talked about the kiss a little bit, of making it unique and building up to it, or making it awkward, or having something sort of unique about it. That can kind of help an actor inform how they're going to go about that. And then sidekicks in terms of how do the people around them react to it. What, Moonstruck, the characters that build the relationships around that are so important in her determining if that she loves him, and the certain things that are happening. I mean, are characters rolling their eyes because this person is always in this kind of relationship? Are the characters oh my gosh, you finally found the person? I mean, how are the characters reacting? If you can create that kind of chemistry as well, it's going to help the main characters. And so chemistry is not only, especially in romantic comedies, the supporting cast is so huge. And I know I talk about 5-Year Engagement all the time because that's such a stellar supporting cast, but most romantic comedies have a pretty strong supporting cast. And chemistry can happen sometimes. Sometimes spin-offs come. Knocked Up has Leslie Mann and Paul Rudd have such great chemistry as supporting characters that they kind of spun off with This Is 40, with those two characters being a married couple. And so there are things that spin off from other movies because the chemistry is good, which is interesting because I think that's a really good one of a lack of chemistry between Katherine Hagel and Seth Rogen. And if you compare Knocked Up and the chemistry between those two characters, they seem sort of annoyed with, I know it's a one-night stand that turns into a relationship, but they are supposed to fall for each other, and I don't think it plays. Whereas you look at the chemistry between Seth Rogen, and people kind of tend to blame him because he's the big goofy guy, but he has amazing chemistry with Rose Byrne in The Neighbors, yeah, that's what it's called, right? And then also with Elizabeth Banks and Zach and Mira Make a Porno. It's a great movie. And their chemistry is fantastic in that movie. So I don't think it worked in Knocked Up personally. But having those side characters can really, really, really make a difference. And then trust, having the characters either trust or not trust each other. Where are they at? And do they trust themselves? Do they trust themselves around that person? Do they trust their best friend to be able to stick with them? Trust is such a huge thing in our daily lives. When a character trusts, go through each of your characters and decide, does this character trust this character or not? We should know that. The actor should be able to discern whether they're trustworthy, whether they themselves are trustworthy, and whether they can trust other people. The more that you can build that up, the better those characters will resonate. And then the power play, like it's so nice when you have, and Mr. and Mrs. Smith is a good example of this, and that obviously the chemistry was amazing between those two actors. They ended up it was quite a debacle, and they ended up getting married. But there's an interesting power play in that chemistry where he's in charge and then she's in charge, and the more that you can switch it up, especially right when we least expect it, the more one character says, you know what, I don't want this relationship, I'm breaking up with you, and then the other character does something where they go, oh, wait a minute, it's like that power play. When Harry Met Sally, another great example where he comes and confesses his love on New Year's, and she tries to walk away and she just can't. There's like those kind of power plays, just like they make for those iconic movie moments. Absolutely. And then being vulnerable. If you've ever read or listened to Brene Brown, she's amazing. Like, she's an amazing person to listen to create characters. She talks about vulnerability, and that when you see someone who is vulnerable, do you think of them as being weak? And most people don't, because it's very hard to be vulnerable around someone. And as an actor, being able to be vulnerable is so important. If an actor can't tap into that ability to be vulnerable, then their characters lose a great deal of depth. And the characters that the actors that are able to kind of tap into that easily, like it can be really difficult. It's not as easy as one might think. But the people that can do it really, really do well. Yeah, I agree, Anson, that the knocked up characters were hardly likable. It's a great concept, but I don't think it really worked. Right, and the push and pull, like Doug is saying, that push and pull between I hate him, I like him, I love you, I hate you. That whole love and hate, there's such a fine line, right? Between love and hate, between crazy and sane. There's it's just, we're all walking a tightrope. I'm a donkey on the edge. It's one of my favorite movie lines of all time. It is like we are walking that tightrope on a daily basis. And there's times when it can just be like, even in our own lives, where it can be like, I really hate that I love this, that kind of thing, and that kind of conflict. And, and then the final thing are the stakes. Absolutely, the stakes are obviously the most important. The stakes don't have to be life and death. The stakes are not life and death in Whiplash, but there's some pretty hardcore stakes in there because it's so important to this character. It is sort of life and death for him. It is like, and relationships can feel life and death and can feel that way. And, listen to music while you're writing characters. Listen to, some of Eminem's music to me is like, I love listening to that while I'm writing because he has so much passion and, there's so messed up, right? There's so many of those songs that are like, oh, but there's that passion behind it that makes it interesting and has that push and pull and really kind of helps move you to the next thing. And so, chemistry is not just about love, hate. It's not just about, attraction and, what's the word for it? Aversion, and it's not necessarily just about relationships. I mean, the chemistry in Beautiful Boy between Steve Carell and his son works really well. I think that boy is amazing in that movie. And I actually don't think it's one of Steve Carell's best performances, but their chemistry was really good. You really had the sense of them. So it isn't just about, a romantic chemistry. Like you get these iconic couples sometimes in romantic comedies. It's pretty easy. Spencer and Tracy, Vivian Leigh, Clark Gable. You can go back to even Katharine Hepburn. You can go back to kind of older movies, Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, right? And you can see this amazing chemistry. And then what happens is Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, I think they did 3 movies together. When you get this kind of combination, Julia Roberts and Richard Gere, Kate Hudson and Leo, it can really, really, really lock in this kind of repeat performances. That Kate Hudson and Matthew McConaughey did a few movies together, Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler. When you get when two people seem to have a rhythm that works, often they'll work together more than once. Coen brothers often use entire cast. Wes Anderson uses entire casts to maintain that kind of, especially when you have a voice like Wes Anderson, who's he's very unique in his style. He'll use the same cast, The Lobster and The Favorite, same writer-director, and a lot of the same cast members. So it is like they start to use the same people over and over because that person understands what they're going for, understands the rhythms that they're going for. And sometimes you'll even see, like in a Coen Brothers movie, you'll see kind of a new actor come in and it's just not quite doing it. And also, Aaron Sorkin's another one where Aaron Sorkin has a really good way of developing these ensemble pieces where people are talking really fast, Sorkinisms and they're moving. But when you get an actor in there that can't quite cut it, it doesn't work, right? You get so sudden you go, oh, it's Aaron Sorkin. As opposed to being all involved in the pieces, all of a sudden all you hear is the clipped ... dialogue. So it is like really interesting and when you get those kind of pieces, The Hangover, Bridesmaids, these are all kind of ensemble casts that work really, really well. All the Oceans, all the numbers, the one with all the women, like these are developing, and a lot of those women are friends off stage, and so they're developing these amazing casts. Tarantino, another one, like he has these amazing, he's an actor himself, so on a very good one. Like it's a good thing he writes because boy, can he not act. But he's such a beautiful writer, and I think he writes so well because one of the reasons is because he's an actor, and so he knows the kind of rhythms he wants. So it is really interesting, right? And I think we really wanted to kind of bring that home on Valentine's Day, that chemistry isn't just about love. It is about love, but it's about so many other things. And I think chemistry and love is like that too. It's about so many things on top of the love that's there as the groundwork. So that's our kind of quick little Facebook Live session that we wanted to do today, because we're doing them all week this week because enrollment is open to the Screen Reader course. And when we do these, and then we would go into Screen Reader, we go even deeper within the course. Dialogue. that is a good term. Dialogue. That's what both Mamet, Sorkin, they had ... dialogue. Absolutely. They're cutting each other off all the time, speaking together. So those are just kind of some of the, if you like, I've named like a ton of different people that have good and bad chemistry. I think that, who else, do you guys have any other suggestions of who else would be good chemistry? I think Jonah Hill, Russell Brand, I've mentioned that before. Their chemistry in Forgetting Sarah Marshall led to Getting to the Greek. I think sometimes, sometimes a one-liner character becomes so unique and steals the scene so much that they ends up bringing their breakthrough movie. Very common, where they just have a couple of lines, but their chemistry and their charm is so outrageous that then they end up, moving on to new things. So yes, and definitely that goes along. So like what Doug is saying, it helps if the characters go through some sort of ordeal together. So that reads back to story, but you can have characters go through ordeals together and still not have chemistry. So it is about creating those stakes where they're going through those ordeals, and the stakes are high for each character. The character development is there. There's so much subtext. They're touching each other or not touching each other. They're touching each other and shirking off each other. There's so much you can do with all of the little tips that we just put together that really will inform everything about your story. Get the beats of your story, super important. You want those beats of your story, and then layer on top how your characters are reacting with these kind of things about putting their chemistry together. And Clooney and Pitt, all the Oceans movies, I think are just really, chemistry is obviously really, really good. And Clooney and Pitt are good friends in real life, and I think that comes across in the movies that they do together. So I think, building on top, this is all layered work. You can go back through your screenplay that was 115 and now it's 95. You can go back through and look and see, are there any places where these tips are not present, or you're not giving these characters you want to give them every opportunity you can to create chemistry so that the actor knows when they get that script what they're trying to go for. And that's going to really help solve some of the castability issues you might have with the script. It will really lend that script to being able to have any cast. And I've been listening to On the Page, which is a really good podcast, and they had just one recently about Hollywood gatekeepers, so of course I had to listen to that. But they talked about being lazy when you're introducing your characters, and that some people even think so-and-so, think Brad Pitt, think whoever. And I was like, It made me laugh because that's true. People do that. And it is, it's surprising in a way because it is kind of lazy writing. That's your opportunity. You want to pigeonhole yourself into one person. You want to like, describe that character and, details that make it fascinating and make it so that an actor will want to play that character. So be an actor's writer. Absolutely. Frances McDormand, Woody Harrelson. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good example, Sean, because that again is not a love. It is a love relationship in a weird way. They have such animosity and yet such respect for each other. And what a twist. And I don't want to, if you haven't seen that movie, his character has such a twist, right? Total love, hate, and yet just ultimate respect underneath there. Really good. You finished at 99. Woohoo! Go, man, go. Super proud of you. That's so awesome. So glad to see it. So now what are you going to do? Oh no, writing a screenplay. That's what everybody always does. No, what are you going to do? We'll cover that in another session. Now what? That's a good one. Now what? Yeah, definitely, Sean. That's a really good example. And it's so nice when you see that, right? And when you see the chemistry between the two bad guys, Steve Buscemi and what's his name in Fargo. The chemistry between those two is so great, right? A lot of times chemistry with bad guys is really, is what makes the movie and makes it really interesting, especially when they're not the main characters. And when you get that kind of give and take and their, animosity towards each other, it's really, really funny or really, really tragic, depending on what you're going for. So super, super interesting. Really cool. So that's our Facebook Live YouTube session for today. We will be back tomorrow, but in our masterclass, right? Today's Thursday. Yeah. So Friday at 5, we do a masterclass. Saturday at noon, we do a masterclass. And we are just chalking up the guests that are coming in on Sunday at 5. And so we're going to do, we have a time now. We're going to do it Sunday at 5. And we're going to have a couple of guests come in and talk about their experience and their take on things. So it'll be fun. It won't be just me yammering on. So, yes. Yeah. Awesome. Contest. Right on. Go, man, go. Your timing is awesome. Hi from, Egypt. I think you hold the record. Nadu, did I say that right? Are you seriously in Egypt? That is so cool. Oh my goodness, that's so cool. I love it. I love it. Welcome. Well, welcome to California, dude. So awesome. So yes, Anson, send those vibes to Sean so she can finish her screenplay. Send them out. Come on. That's what we all want to do. That's why I have the course finished. Finished. Let's get that screenplay finished. Super fun. So we also have the pre-trainings. Make sure that you watch those. We will put the links, maybe Doug, if you have them handy. Sorry. We can put the links to the pre-training and maybe the links to all the dates so that you can pick a date if you want to come to the masterclass on Friday or Saturday. And then we will be posting the link and stuff to Sunday at different times so it's not so confusing. I think that might be a Zoom session. We're still kind of figuring that out. So, ooh, that's terrifying. I don't know. That's sort of up to Anson. So in the screen readers group, we have a thing called the writer's room. And it's for screen readers typically where they put their screenplays in there and they practice coverages on them. So you think about that. All right. Cool, guys. We will see you mañana. Happy Valentine's Day. I hope you have a lovely day. Love yourself because it's the greatest gift you can give to anyone. All right. We will talk to you soon. See you mañana. Bye.